Fascinating one. We're looking at really deep holes. I promise it's more interesting than it sounds. This is the Kola Superdeep Borehole, basically a giant hole in the ground they dug in Russia. That, instead of going up, went straight down.
Throughout history, human curiosity has driven us to explore the world around us. We've ventured into space, set up research stations at the South Pole, and circled the Earth countless times. However, there are still uncharted places on our own planet, right beneath our feet. Science doesn't have all the answers about what lies thousands of meters below the Earth's surface. In fact, samples of minerals from deep underground are as valuable as those collected from outer space by spacecraft. But what's stopping us from going that deep and finding out? What have we discovered so far, thanks to the deepest man-made hole, the Kola Superdeep Borehole? In this episode, we'll discuss what Soviets have discovered in the Kola Superdeep. This is Reveal the Mystery. If you are curious to learn mysteries of the world, space and beyond, consider subscribing. Kola Superdeep. The Kola Superdeep Borehole is a really deep hole in the ground that holds a world record. It goes down to a depth of 12,262 meters, making it the deepest hole on Earth. This hole was made for science and to learn about the oldest rocks on our planet, like rocks that are around 3 billion years old. The drilling happened in a place near the Kola Peninsula called the Baltic Shield because it has these old rocks near the surface. The drilling started in 1970 and took 4 years to go 7,263 meters deep. At first, they used a machine that's usually used for getting oil and gas out of the ground. Later, they used a different machine that had a rotating drill head, not the hole drill. This new machine was 46 meters long and had a big drill head with a diameter of 214 millimeters. It looked like a ring and had a rock column in the middle that wasn't drilled yet. They also used a pipe to collect pieces of rock, and the main goal was to get this core. The stuff in the hole weighed about 200 tons, and they had to use special lightweight pipes because regular steel pipes would break from the weight. As they went deeper into the Earth's crust, they knew there might be problems. In 1984, a major setback occurred when the team took a break for a geological conference. Upon their return, they faced a significant challenge. Some walls lacking sturdy reinforcement had suffered damage during the hiatus. When they attempted to retrieve the drill, it became lodged and ultimately broke. This resulted in the loss of a specialized drill and 5 kilometers of pipes, along with 5 years of effort. Undeterred, they explored various methods to bypass the compromise section, a common practice in drilling. They encountered numerous obstacles, occasionally reaching dead ends. Consequently, the well resembled a complex network with multiple branches rather than a straightforward path. They persevered, and by 1990, they had once again achieved a depth of 12 kilometers. It's important to note that the Earth's land-based crust extends up to 30 kilometers deep. Thus, while the well surpassed 12 kilometers, it remains a small fraction of the Earth's total crust. The crust, compared to the nearly 3,000 kilometer thick mantle below, is relatively thin on a planetary scale. Despite further mishaps, hope of delving deeper waned. They exhausted available technology, sensing the Earth was unwilling to divulge more. Consequently, drilling ceased in 1992. Science. Despite falling short of the initial 15-kilometer target, Kola Superdeep Project was an astounding scientific success. Researchers gathered valuable data at every few meters of drilling. Notable findings included industrial-grade copper-nickel ore at approximately 1.6 kilometers and a geochemical anomaly with a high gold content, though impractical for extraction at 9.5 kilometers. This layer still held scientific significance. Beyond practical subsoil data, scientists gained groundbreaking insights into the Earth's crust structure. The anticipated geological profile proved inaccurate, with projections for the first 5 kilometers extending to 7 kilometers, followed by unexpected low-density rocks. Basalts, predicted at 7 kilometers, were absent. Deep seismic sounding prior to work indicated a granite-to-basalt transition zone, but actually, fractured Archean-Genesis rocks were present. This discovery challenged prior assumptions. extraction challenges arose, with even granite cores crumbling due to pressure changes during ascent. Surprisingly, temperature increased more rapidly than expected, reaching 220 degrees Celsius at 12 kilometers. Fossilized microorganisms, over 2.8 billion years old, were unearthed, defying expectations of sterile depths. Methane concentrations were unexpectedly high in sedimentary rock-free zones. These remarkable discoveries underscored humanity's limited knowledge of our own planet. The Kola Superdeep also gained notoriety for hoaxes, including claims of mysterious non-technogenic sounds recorded at a certain depth. Hell, the story of eerie sounds from the Kola Superdeep well, supposedly reaching hell, circulated on the internet, sparking a conspiracy theory. Let's clarify this tale, especially for those hearing it for the first time. Firstly, there were no microphones on the drilling equipment. Instead, sensors tracked environmental changes, not sound. Secondly, a Finnish newspaper, coincidentally publishing on April Fool's Day, unintentionally fueled the legend. Strange incidents did occur at Kola Superdeep, possibly inspiring hoaxes. One notable event, shared by director David Guberman, involved a mysterious noise and an explosion. Yet, no anomalies were found later. The project wasn't as simple as it seemed. In 1995, the project concluded and the well was sealed. Maybe future scientists, following Guberman's lead, will uncover the truth. In 1974, American researchers almost reached 10,000 meters in Oklahoma's Anadarko Basin. They reached an impressive 9,583 meters in just 502 days, costing $15 million. Unfortunately, the drilling rig, Bertha Rogers, hit molten sulfur instead of oil, ending the project. A decade later, something even more intriguing happened elsewhere. In the 1980s, there was an interesting idea in Sweden about where oil and gas might come from. Instead of thinking they came from old layers of dead plants and animals, scientists thought they might come from hot gases and liquids deep inside the Earth's mantle. These hot mixtures have hydrocarbons and can move up into the Earth's crust. This new idea had a big impact because it meant that oil and gas could be found not just in sedimentary rocks, but also in volcanic and metamorphic rocks. People were really interested in this theory, not just from a scientific point of view, but also because it could have commercial benefits. So they decided to test it with a big project in Sweden. They chose a place called the Siljan Ring Crater, which is about 52 kilometers wide, for drilling. They believed there were certain kinds of rocks at a depth of 500 to 600 meters that might cover the hidden oil and gas. They used precise measurements to figure out the types and density of rocks deep down. These measurements suggested there were porous rocks about 5 kilometers deep that might have oil and gas. However, when they actually drilled and checked, they didn't find the big amounts of oil and gas they were hoping for. They found only small, scattered deposits that seemed to come from living things. This was a big disappointment for the scientists and the people who invested $60 million in the project. So, in 1990, they decided to stop the project. Black material. Scientists found something unexpected deep underground in a well. It was like a strange, jelly-like substance. They thought it was something called asphaltene. This was at a depth of about 5,945 meters. When they looked at it closely, they discovered it was made mostly of something called magnetite, along with some other stuff called paraffinic hydrocarbons. They also found tiny clues that reminded them of a big hole in the ground called the Siljan Ring Crater. The scientists thought this strange substance might be made by tiny living things underground, using special materials from deep inside the Earth. Some people thought this was very exciting and important for science, but others were not so sure. They did a lot of careful thinking and math to understand what they found. They figured out that the unusual substance was actually made because of some special mixtures used in the drilling process. These mixtures had things like soda, kinds of plastics, and natural materials in them. The extreme conditions deep underground caused these ordinary things to turn into something very strange.